I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading the Gospel of John, chapter 21. Let's focus on verses 7 through 11. When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tied his outer garment around him, for he was stripped, and plunged into the sea. But since they were not far from the land, about 100 yards away, the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. And when they got on the land, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish lying on it, and bread. "Bring some of the fish you've caught," Jesus told them. So Simon Peter got up and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. Even though there were so many of them, the net was not torn. The theme of the last chapter of John's Gospel seems to be restoration for Simon Peter, and secondly, shoring up loose ends for the other 6 disciples. So today, I want to focus on 2 less obvious aspects of this chapter. The Bible tells us the disciples were fishing in the Sea of Tiberias, and this is actually a specific area of the Sea of Galilee, the southern part of the Sea of Galilee to be exact. And Tiberias was a Roman town. And since religious Jews would never choose to live around Romans, and Romans would never be familiar with the Jews who lived in another region of the Sea of Galilee, well, then Tiberias would have been safe enough for the disciples to lay low while still fishing in somewhat familiar waters. Now, while Pilate defended Jesus 3 times and then recanted, Peter denied Jesus 3 times and repented. And we know Peter's heart desired reconciliation with Jesus. The moment that he perceived Jesus was on the shore, Peter jumped into the water. And this scene is reminiscent of an earlier time when Peter's lack of faith prohibited him from walking on water. Matthew 14, verses 28 through 30. "Lord, if it's you," Peter answered Jesus, "command me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said. And climbing out of the boat, Peter started walking on water and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the strength of the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Now we can assume Peter may have believed that he would show Jesus that given another chance, he could walk on the water. Because Peter did not disrobe to jump in, he was actually already disrobed. Now, he wasn't sitting there naked. Nobody would have done that. But, he was just down to the bare basics. The Bible says he put on his garment before jumping in. And I think that Peter was trying to communicate to Jesus that given another chance, perhaps Peter could prove that he had the faith to walk on water. I mean, why else would you put all your clothes on? But the Bible doesn't say. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought. Now, the second observation in chapter 21 concerns the number of fish that the disciples caught. The Bible isn't arbitrary. It doesn't just throw out names and places and numbers. Everything means something. Now, early church leader St. Jerome mentioned in his writings that there were 153 known fish species in the world at that time. So perhaps the miracle may not have simply been another great haul of fish, like we saw back in Luke chapter 5. Perhaps they caught one of every type of fish known to the world. Obviously, they didn't need any fish. Jesus already had fish sitting there on the coals. So he's trying to prove a point to them. He's sending a message to them. And regardless, their catch of fish foreshadowed worldwide evangelism, which would spring forth from the disciples' preaching. It also foretold of the end of the age, when all of mankind will be judged. Matthew chapter 13, verse 47. "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a large net thrown into the sea." And look at what it says. "And it collected every kind of fish. And when it was full, they dragged it ashore, sat down, and gathered the good fish into containers, but threw out the worthless ones. So it will be at the end of the age." I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And your giving to Groundworks Ministries transforms lives. Would you consider making a donation to Groundworks Ministries today? Because we really need your monthly support now more than ever. And donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. Another way to help is to tell people about Groundworks Ministries. You can share these podcasts with friends and family. You can post them on your social media. And of course, you can always lead folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.